Hey friends, it's Becky L. McCoy, and this is Sucker Punched. Welcome to episode 60 of Sucker Punch. Today I'm talking with my friend Amber Salhus. But before I share that conversation with you, I encourage you to go ahead and listen to the last episode, episode 59 with Becky Kaiser. We talked about celebrating the holidays and the celebrations not being a source of burnout and figuring out how you can make Christmas and New Year's and any holiday throughout the year special without it being something exhausting that you can't even enjoy. So if you have not listened to that episode yet, I promise you will want to head back and listen to that and then come back here and listen to me and Amber. Amber and I are chatting about just what does burnout look like in creativity and in dreaming and in all of those aspects when you just don't have the mental or emotional capacity to do the things that you really want to get done. And Amber has lived this. I mean, we both have, but I really appreciate her wisdom and insight into this. So here is my conversation with my real life friend, Amber Salhus. This is episode 60, and I'm here with my real life friend, Amber, today.
Hey, woohoo!
Amber is part of the Mom Wants More podcast, and we spend lots of time voxing each other throughout the week about serious things like writing and also Taco Bell.
Yes, because priorities.
Although when you left a message so we did, one of our friends was turning 50. And so we did a thing of 50 blessings and proverbs and quotes and whatnot. And one of the ones that you sent her was like, hopefully you'll finally try Taco Bell or something like that with mild sauce.
I said, may you finally stop rebelling against the Lord's will and try Taco Bell. Because Nikki's like, she's British and she's just like kind of classier and she's not into it, but she doesn't know what she's missing.
And I almost had to add it because then in parentheses you said with mild sauce, and I almost added something really snarky about how but hot sauce is better.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a conversation for another day. So
we'll take it out back later.
Easy, Tiger.
Yeah. So today we're talking about burnout. How's that for a hard transition? So let's talk about, what does burnout look like in your life?
So for me, I'm always kind of like I'm a slow processor, I guess you could say. And it always takes me an extra beat to kind of realize, oh, this is what's going on. And I'm actually just coming out of a season of pretty hard burnout, creatively, emotionally, just in general. And so now that I'm coming out of that season, I feel like I'm better able to look back and realize the ways that it affected me. But for me, it looks a lot like just sort of a general sense of overwhelm, a lot of distraction. I feel this need to to be productive and do all these things, in my creative work, in my personal life, in my relationships. I'm a person who tends to have pretty high standards for myself. But it's when I'm feeling burnt out, I can't finish anything. I'll start all the things and not finish any of them. I'm just kind of all over the place like a squirrel, you know?
Yes, I do know.
Yeah, like I can't even finish a book. Like I'm the kind of person who I love to read, and I usually read really quickly. And I mean, this summer I started, I'm not kidding you, probably like 5 different books, and I never finished one of them, which is so not like
Wow.
me.
Yeah.
So it
Oh
looks,
man.
yeah, it looks like distraction. It looks like just frustration. Like I get really hard on myself when I start to feel burnout. Instead of, you know, taking it easy or giving myself more grace, I tend to go the other direction. And I get really frustrated because I don't feel like I'm living up to my expectations or my potential, or, you know, it looks like definitely low patience. Like I'm not the best version of myself with my kids, you know, get kind of like that, you know, I hate to say it, but mean mommy voice where you have just like a little extra bass in your voice.
Yeah. And it's a little sharper. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely like having watched you go through this season. And you mentioning having unrealistic expectations for yourself. Like there were some work projects that you were like, I just got to get it done. I'm just going to push through and I'm going to get it done. And then realizing like what I thought I got done was not even my best work because I was pushing myself too hard.
Oh, 100%. Like, especially when it comes to creative work. Like, you know, I'm a podcaster, I'm a writer, just like you. We kind of run in these same circles. And, you know, I was trying to wrap up a book proposal. I was trying to launch a new website, redo my own personal website, like do all these things. And, you know, still try to blog on the side. It was just like, I can be so hilarious sometimes. Like, who am I even kidding that I'm going to be able to do all of these things, much less do them well at all. But I was just like, I'm just going to buckle down and do it. But I mean, man, nothing sucks your creative juices faster than pressure to hurry up and try. Like it's just completely
and be perfect. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just not a thing.
No, because you're not giving your brain any recovery time.
Mm-hmm. And you were such an encouragement to me during that time because you were kind of like that voice of reason to me calling from the other side of like, hey, it's okay to like take a hot minute to feel your big feelings. And, you know, the work isn't going to go anywhere.
Yeah. Well, and that's only because I've, you know, swum my laps in the pool of burnout despair, trying so desperately to make it feel like real life, regular life, but it's not. You have to like heal and recover from it.
Yeah. And it took me, you know, a while to kind of realize that. And then, and then when I finally did start to give myself a little bit of margin, it's amazing how beneficial it can be. Like I felt like even just giving myself an inch felt like a mile because it was like I could finally take a breath. Like I just told myself, okay, I'm not gonna worry about posting on my blog this summer. Like it's okay. The world isn't going to stop spinning on its axis. I'm like, I'm not that big of a deal. People are going to be fine without me. And just focusing in on one or two things was really helpful. And then just giving myself space to process, you know?
So what did that look like? Like, what were some of the practical things that you did?
Well, I literally sat down and made a list, like a to-don't list.
I love those. Those are my favorite.
Yes, I'm new to those. I'm real good at to-do lists, but I sat down and I was like, okay, here's all the things I'm trying to do. This is obviously not working. So what can I take off this list? And really once you kind of filter things through that gauge of like, what is the most important thing? What do I have to do right now? What's time sensitive? And for me, it was, you know, my partner, Alana, and we were getting ready to launch our podcast. And so it was like, that had to take precedence. We had to get a website built. We had to plan content. So I really just let myself, when it came to my creative work anyways, if we're talking about that area of my life, I just focused in on that and I let everything else take a back burner.
What about in your personal life?
In my personal life, it looked like sort of just letting go of my expectations of myself. Like, not trying to have it all together. I know that sounds so cliche, but for me, like, it was real. It's hard to do. Like, I got up a little earlier a lot of mornings and I just sat on my back porch and I sipped my coffee before my kids got up and just was just quiet with myself. You know, you know me, brevity has never been my strong suit. I'm a chatty gal. I take every awkward silence as an invitation to just fill it. So for me, silence is intimidating, or it can be, you know? And so it looked like actual quiet. And I started doing meditations. I have an app called Headspace. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it's so cool. It just has it has 3-minute meditations, like 5-minute, 10-minute, and I think even up to 15-minute. And just kind of walks you through like some breathing exercises, just like learning how to kind of shut down your mind or focus in on just one thing. Cause I'm just like, my thoughts were so scattered and all over the place, but it was also an endless loop, you know, like there was these, we were just going through a lot it felt like, you know, when it rains, it pours in life. And there was like heartbreak in some close relationships. There was professional hardship, financial hardship. And so it was like my mind was constantly running, trying to solve all these problems and manage my feelings about them. And so doing the meditations helped me to just like begin to learn how to just shut down my mind and be present in my body, which does not come naturally to me.
Yeah, that's really hard. I wish I had something more profound to say.
It is.
But it's just really hard.
I don't know if it's like a writer thing or what, but I feel like I live inside my head. It's like I'm always having, you know, there's my inner monologue, there's the conversation I'm actually having, and then the second conversation I'm having in my head with
Right.
Do I sound neurotic yet? I just really know how to make myself sound really great.
No, I totally get it. Yeah, I haven't used Headspace, but I've used the app Calm, which is very similar.
Yeah.
And I had having chronic anxiety and depression, like meditation is something I've been working on for a really long time, but it's still really hard, especially like you were in this situation where every aspect of life felt like it was falling apart. And so there's plenty of material to think about. Like, you know, you could sit down and think about everything, and then you could just start the reel over again and just keep it on loop. But you can't, like, just like you can't keep your heart rate up forever and expect your heart not to explode. You can't let your brain just go forever. Like, you have to teach it how to just slow down for a little bit.
You got to step off the carousel every once in a while.
Yeah, for real.
Like, and for me, you know, I really have to be intentional about like forcing myself to slow down, because I tend to, whether things are going well or not well, like I tend to just like, you know, if things are going good, I'm like, okay, great. That's done. Checked it off. On to the next thing, you know?
Yep.
And when things are not going well, I'm like, well, that was a struggle. Okay, this next one's got to go better. I got to do better this next time around. And it's like, it's just not realistic, you know? And I was starting to have like, I've never struggled with anxiety in like a major way, but I felt like I was getting a lot of low grade anxiety. Like my heart would race. I'd wake up in the middle of the night sweating and my heart's racing and I can't go back to sleep. And I don't really know why. It's just kind of like this vague sense of like,
Yeah.
So, I think the meditation helped, and, you know, actually caring for my physical health and my mental health. I started working out more, and that helped me kind of burn off some stress. And, just a million little things sometimes can add up to one big difference.
Yeah. And having the courage to make those little changes.
Mm-hmm.
Because you didn't know, like especially the working out, for instance, you didn't know if it was going to be a positive result.
Yeah, no. And actually, like, that's an area of my life that has been very up and down, and sort of like has been very positive at times, and then also like very frustrating and a source of a lot of pain. And I had a lot of fear and self-doubt. And, that whole thing for me was like a loaded conversation.
I mean, we've talked about it, like, not when we're recording and sharing our secrets with the world, but like when you have a history of a complicated relationship with your body and you're trying to make changes to prevent burnout, but like some of the changes could potentially tailspin you into deeper burnout.
Exactly.
Like, what did you tell yourself to convince yourself to do it?
Honestly, I had to quit psyching myself out, because I'm a person who has, yo-yo dieted. I've gained and lost weight like it's my job. But my mentality has always been the same. And it's just been like that same negative, like, loop of self-talk and fear and like, oh, I'm going to fail again. And so I had to I knew that, like, if anything about this was going to work, I had to start in my mind. I had to change my mentality. And so I had to, like, kind of what's the word? Like, I guess use reverse psychology and like pretend like it wasn't a big deal, because I knew if I was like, and on Monday we start, and like build it up to this thing, it wouldn't work. And so I just kind of focused on smaller, sustainable habits, not like this big overhaul that I can never stick with. It was like, okay, today we're going to focus on drinking water. And tomorrow we're going to clear the pantry of the things that we know shouldn't be in. I say we, I refer to myself in the third person when I'm.
I don't even notice that anymore.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, I had to just take small steps. And then it's like, you get a couple of, I guess for lack of a better term, you get a couple of wins under your belt, and you realize, like, man, like, the story I've been telling myself about myself all this time is sort of a crock. Like, it's like, I would just be like, well, I'm a person who, I self-sabotage, and I'm not a finisher, and I start things, but I don't stay with that. And it's like, you tell yourself that for long enough, and it's, it's going to be true. And so just getting a couple of small changes that I was able to stick with, it like put so much wind back in my sails and gave me confidence to try to do like more, Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really fun. And Amber's social media stuff is in the show notes. And if you want to see, like, she's really good about posting pictures like every once in a while, just about, I mean, you started doing this mostly just to take care of yourself and to deal with stress, but you've had so many benefits that it's been really fun to watch.
Yeah. It's like, it started as a thing of like, I'm 36 years old. Like, I'm, maybe almost halfway through my life. And I just realized, like, I had kind of given into this idea of like, well, this is just the way things are going to go. Like, I'm just going to get older and heavier. And and it's like, you know what? No, like, there's nobody says I can't feel my best, by the end of this year or by the time I turn 40. So it started, mostly as like a sort of a revolt against my own patterns. And then now it's kind of morphed into something where, I coach and I work with other people and I do workshops and stuff. And it's like, God's so hilarious, right? Because that's not something I would have ever like set out to do or expected to do. But it's so funny because it's like all of the reasons why I love to write and podcast. Like, I love to, gather women and encourage them and sort of like relate to the struggle. And, like the health coaching, it kind of checks all those same boxes, but just in a different way. So it's been fun.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
And that's helped with burnout too. Like, trying something new, just something outside of your normal repertoire, I guess you could say, it can kind of breathe new life into your day and your mind and your heart.
Yeah, I was at a conference, and one of the sections of the conference was these 3 different artists just talking about their artistic lives, and they were all saying, as you know, there's not ever one kind of artist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if you're a painter, you're going to experiment with other different mediums, or with music, or with movement, or whatever, because your creativity needs the variety in order to grow and thrive.
Yeah. Like, you got to keep yourself on your toes in a way.
Yeah. And I think that's so true, just kind of in regular life.
Yeah. Preach.
You know, like, I also say this as someone who like rails against routine. I do not do well with routine.
Really?
And
okay.
So yeah, I really don't. And it's taken me like until this year to realize that. And so I think a lot of my own personal burnout came because I was hearing, like, in order to keep your house clean, this is what you should do. You know, every Monday you do the bathrooms, every Tuesday you do this, or every day at 10 o'clock you just take 20 minutes and go around. But those like rigid routine things just don't work for me, because what if at 9:55 I have this incredible idea of something I need to just go run and do right now? And like, you know me, I get all these crazy ideas like on the regular.
Yeah. So that's very likely.
Really, yeah, right. Like, that is a distinct possibility. But figure... And like, now I'm starting to find there are other people that don't do well with routine, and there are ways to cope with that and still get things accomplished. And but like you said, adjusting those unrealistic expectations. I am never going to function like someone who does the same thing every day in the same order, eats the same meals, like all that kind of stuff. And I just need to be okay with that.
Yeah. And so much of it just comes from like actually knowing and understanding who you are, because it's like some people do thrive within that, like that structure and that framework. They feel like safe and like, oh, yes, okay, now I can go. But then for other people, you know, people like you, maybe that feels stifling or like scary. Like, well, what if I have an idea and I can't chase that down? And I don't know, maybe that's something that just comes with age, but a big part of like overcoming the burnout for me too is just like really taking a look at like, how do I function? Like, started learning about the Enneagram and like how do I like operate and move and process the world around me?
Yeah, totally. So let's talk before we finish about, what do you see is the connection between living bravely and actively avoiding burnout?
Oh man. Well, I wish I had a lovely concrete answer for this, because but I don't. Let me just preface that.
Well, if there were ever a podcast that tied up no loose ends,
right,
this would be the one. So,
but honestly, like, it's been such an interesting and wild ride for me, because in the last few years, because for most of my life, I genuinely like thought that I was not a creative person. Like, that's a thing that I would say, like, but it's because, and I wasn't even mad about it really. It was just like, oh yeah, that's not like, you know, I don't like to craft. I don't like to hand make things. I don't sing. I don't dance. I just always kind of put art.
Not having like scrapbooking weekends.
Yeah, no. Oh my gosh, no. So I always just put art in a box. And when I didn't see myself fitting in that box, I just kind of like, well, I'm not part of the creatives club, and that's okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
But I mean, which is like, now it sounds so absurd to me, but I mean, honestly, it was like sort of like this awakening or this revelation I had that like, oh my gosh, like putting words on a page or making people laugh, or, you know, my husband and I flipped homes on the site, like all these things, like it counts. I'm creative. And it was like this light bulb moment of like, oh my gosh, I snuck in the club and nobody's kicking me out.
You snuck in.
I'm in the fringe.
Back door.
Yep. I'm on the fringe of the crowd, but I'm in, baby. But so in these last few years, as I've sort of like been on this process of like waking up to my creative self, and I often, I think our creative bent is so intimately linked with like the dreams that are tucked away in our heart. And so for me, it's been kind of like uncovering all of that stuff and beginning to get after it and start writing and start podcasting and doing all these things. But my God, that whole experience is like left me a ball of nerves because you're constantly pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. I'm constantly like trying new things. And then whenever you try something new, you're ultimately going to feel wonky about it. Like that's just a normal part of the process. And so for me, like living bravely, it's been this fine line of walking where it's like at times it makes you feel awake and alive and excited and energized. And then at other times it's like, oh my God, I need to go take a nap for 5 days because I can't handle all these feelings.
Yep.
So it's just like learning how to check in with myself and not wait till it's too late. I think, the season that I was in that I'm now coming out of this spring and summer of just feeling burnt out in every way, emotionally, creatively, relationally, spiritually. I didn't check in with myself soon enough. And I just kept trying to push ahead and push forward and keep being productive. And, then you go too far and then it takes that much longer to kind of find your balance again.
Yeah.
So I guess I need to be better about checking in with myself. That's the best advice I have.
And what are some of the ways that you do that?
Checking in with my physical body. I mean, I think sometimes our bodies know things before our head realizes them. So like when those kind of tinges of anxiety come on where, I can't stop fidgeting. I'm not sleeping well. I'm getting headaches all the time. I'm feeling nauseous. It's like, I think my body is trying to tell me something here, and then I'll realize like, oh, I haven't really slowed down much the last couple of weeks, or I haven't had quiet time, or I haven't been, just working out or having quiet time with myself or God, all those things.
Yeah. 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 Oh man.
Just kind of readjusting our sails and making small pivots,
Yeah. I'm glad that you've figured these things out. Because can you imagine if you didn't and you like the summer had just kind of turned into like permanent amber?
Well, and I mean, that's like, it's funny to say, but it's also like, that's real. That can happen. Yeah. And honestly, I'm so thankful for your words of wisdom to me during that time. Cause I remember listening to a Voxer from you and just like crying while I listened to it. Cause you were like, it's okay. Right. Like, do you need somebody to tell you that? Cause I will tell you that.
You make it sound so gentle. Cause I know that when I get in that space, I'm like, Amber, like
you were bossy, but in a good way.
Yeah. But it's definitely bossy.
I love it.
Yeah. So may we all have friends and be the friend that says it's okay to stop and slow down for just a little bit.
And sometimes it takes your friends or your spouse or somebody, a family member to notice that you're kind of off kilter before you even see it in yourself too.
Yeah. So true. Well, on that note, Amber, tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me at Amber Salhus on all social media. It's AmberSalhus. It's a little tricky of a spelling. And my website is ambersalhus.com. And yeah, it's pretty much the same all across the board. Come find me. You can sign up for my email list. I'd love to follow you and connect on social media. I spend most of my time on Instagram. I feel like that's where I have the most fun.
Yeah. And you really are a fantastic coach. Like, I think sometimes people think of like health and fitness coach as being somebody who has unrealistic expectations for you and your performance. And you're really good at helping people figure out what works for them.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, you got to take into account like your body, your mind, and your heart. Like it's all connected, So, yeah.
So true. All right. Well, thanks, Amber.
Yay. Thanks for having me.
Isn't Amber so fun? She's the funnest. if you loved listening to her, you can check out her podcast. It's called Mom Wants More, and she hosts that with a mutual friend of ours. I'll be on it sometime in the near future, and we had a lot of fun having a conversation over there as well. You can also check in with Amber and follow her and get to know her better. All of her contact information is in the show notes. If you are interested, if you are interested in exploring more about what it looks like to learn to dream again and kind of a lot of the things that Amber and I talked about, you can join me in the next Brave Together virtual retreat. I'm really excited. The topic is dream, and we're gathering on February 23rd. It's a Saturday. It's all online, so you don't have to worry about traveling, taking off of work, finding childcare, any of those things. And it's just a really wonderful few hours to gather, to get refreshed, encouraged. And I just really hope that you'll get to be there with us. You can find the link to sign up in the show notes. Next week on Sucker Punched, I am talking with Dorina Lazo-Gilmore. We're talking about what it looks like to burn out when you're a caregiver and when you're grieving. And those things are very real. I think even if you've never been in the position of being the caregiver or the griever, you will be really encouraged and challenged by our conversation to learn how to love on your friends who are in caregivers and who are grieving. She has been through a lot and she just has a lot of wisdom to share with us. A huge thank you to the folks over at Resonate Recordings. They are the ones who make this podcast and so many other podcasts sound wonderful. If you'd like to start a podcast or if you want to make your podcast better, they have so many resources. They don't just edit the sound and make it sound better, but they also are so helpful in the creative department, in helping you figure out the right equipment and recording software and all of that kind of thing. So if you are looking for some help in the podcast domain, definitely check them out at resonaterecordings.com. If you want a little peek inside my brain, I don't know if you do. Is that kind of scary? Head over to the blog, BeckyLMcCoy.com, and you can read my latest post. It's called What You Need to Know About Burnout from a Single Parent. And it's not that only single parents experience burnout, but I have experienced a crash course in how to deal with and prevent burnout because I am a single parent. And I just wanted to share a few things with you that I know will be really helpful in your creating rhythms in your life that help to prevent it as well, because we don't have to experience burnout. And I really hope that that will be helpful for you. So until next time, when I chat with my friend Dorina, have a wonderful, wonderful week.